All right, let's dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's Robert Kiyosaki's book, and it's caused quite a stir about money, wouldn't you say? We're going deep on Kiyosaki's unique views to see what we can all learn. Ready for some serious eye-openers from this classic.
Oh, absolutely. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a fascinating look at how our experiences shape our relationship with money. Kiyosaki had two father figures, his own dad, the poor dad, and then his best friend's dad, the rich dad.
So two dads with totally different money styles. What were their philosophies?
Poor dad was super educated, believed in good grades, a stable job, and saving diligently. Classic, right? Rich dad, though. Self-made entrepreneur, all about financial smarts, building things that make you money. He saw money as something to master, not just earn and hide away.
That leads right into one of Kiyosaki's most famous lines. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. So how do we actually do that?
Imagine this. Your money's out there, making more money, not just your paycheck. To be investments, businesses, or even royalties, anything that puts money in your pocket without you constantly trading your time.
So no get-rich-quick schemes, but a long game of making income that lasts.
You got it. And Kiyosaki says a big mistake is thinking liabilities are assets. He even says, your house is not an asset. Bold statement.
Wow, that goes against everything we've been taught. Why does he think that?
Well, think. Your house might go up in value, but it also costs a ton. Mortgage payments, property taxes, fixing things. If that drains you more than it gives back, it's acting like a liability, at least money-wise.
Makes you rethink what an asset really is. You got to analyze where your money is actually going.
Exactly. That's Kiyosaki's point. Knowing the difference between assets and liabilities is crucial. An asset fills your pocket, a liability empties it. So rentals, stocks that pay you, a business making profit, those are assets.
Kiyosaki tells that story about working for Rich Dad as a kid, all right? Him and his friend Mike, 10 cents an hour for cleaning comic books. It wasn't about the money. It was the lesson. What was Rich Dad teaching them?
It was a sneakily brilliant lesson in money and business hidden as a chore. Rich Dad wasn't being chief. He was showing them how to make something valuable, spot opportunities, even on a tiny scale.
So even as kids, he was pushing them to think like entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
To see beyond just trading time for a paycheck.
Spot on. He was planting that seed. You can make income by creating systems and value, even if it's just organized comics.
Powerful stuff, especially when we're told a 9-to-5 is the way to be financially secure. Kiyosaki wants us to be more proactive, right?
Yeah.
Shift from employee to entrepreneur, even if it's a side hustle while you're still working a regular job.
You got it. And then there's another one of his bold statements, savers are losers. Now, he's not bashing saving completely, but he's saying when inflation's high, interest rates are low, your money's losing value just sitting in a regular savings account.
Okay, so what's the alternative? Risky investments.
Not quite. He wants us to get smarter with money, understand it so it works harder for us. This means checking out different investments, figuring out how to make it grow faster than inflation eats it away.
So be active with your money, not just hoping for the best. But investing can be scary, especially if you don't know the markets well. Where does Kiyosaki say people should even begin?
He's all about financial literacy. You don't have to be a Wall Street whiz, but you got to understand the basics of investing, different types of assets, and find resources and mentors who can show you the ropes.
Like learning to swim before jumping in the deep end. Not just about the investment itself, but understanding the whole pool.
Precisely. This connects to his mind your own business idea, too. It's not just starting a company, but taking charge of your money future, building your assets, making a system where money works for you even when you're not working for it.
No, that's a cool concept. And then there's that inventing money idea. What does that even mean?
He's pushing us to go beyond just earning a paycheck to see where we can create value and basically make wealth from seemingly nothing.
And he uses that real estate example to show this, right?
Yeah. He talks about buying a cheap house, fixing it up, selling it for a profit. He used his skills and a bit of work to make value where there wasn't much before.
So spotting potential that others miss, and then using your smarts to turn it into real money.
Exactly. Thinking outside the box, finding those hidden opportunities, and using your financial smarts to make wealth.
He's pushing for a more creative, proactive way to manage money instead of just accepting the way things are, right? But that's got to be hard if you've never thought about money this way. What does Kiyosaki suggest for beginners?
He says there are 4 key skills for getting good with money: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law.
That's a lot to learn. He's basically saying, don't just be good at making money, be good at managing, growing, and protecting it too. A whole package deal for building wealth.
Exactly. He wants us to be well-rounded with our money knowledge, understand how all those parts work together. He says we should always be learning and adding to our financial toolbox.
So it's not a one-time thing, it's a lifelong journey of learning and getting better with money.
Absolutely. He's all about committing to financial learning and self-improvement for life.
Wow, this is already a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And it feels like we've barely scratched the surface. Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad really makes you rethink things and be more strategic with money.
It really does. And one of the most interesting parts is how he talks about the emotional stuff that holds us back from being successful with money, especially fear and doubt. This can be huge.
So true. Fear and doubt can stop us from making big money decisions. What does Kiyosaki say we can do to get over those hurdles?
He uses this great Chicken Little analogy to show how fear can make things happen, especially with investing. Remember, the sky is falling, everyone freaks out, but it was just an acorn.
So don't let your emotions control your money choices, especially if they're based on fear or guesses.
Exactly. He says the more we know about how markets work, the less likely we are to freak out over rumors or react without thinking.
So do your research, make smart choices, and don't let fear freeze you up.
Exactly. He's all about a balanced approach. Take calculated risks, not crazy gambles. And even if things don't work out, mistakes and failures are chances to learn, not reasons to quit.
He even says failure is like learning to ride a bike. You'll fall a few times before you get it right.
Yeah, it's about changing how we see failure. It's a stepping stone, not a roadblock.
I love that. It's easy to get discouraged, but Kiyosaki reminds us that being persistent and bouncing back are essential for anyone who wants to be successful with money. And he gives some really practical advice for starting this whole financial freedom journey, right?
He does. One of his big things is to pay yourself first. Seems counterintuitive, but he says putting saving and investing at the top of your list, not as an afterthought, is crucial for building wealth over time.
So instead of waiting to see what's left at the end of the month, you set aside money specifically for building your assets.
That's the idea. It's about making a real commitment to your financial future, treating your savings and investments like any other important expense.
He also says it's super important to find mentors and never stop learning, right? Surround yourself with people who can teach you and keep growing your financial knowledge. He talks about going to seminars, reading books, being a lifelong learner.
He believes financial education is a journey, not a destination. There's always something new to learn, new skills to master, new ways to see things.
The Rich Dad, Poor Dad isn't just a one-time read, it's a call to action, right? It's about actively engaging with your finances, learning, growing, and making smart choices for a better financial future.
That's a great way to put it. The book gives you a blueprint, but it's up to each of us to take that blueprint and build something incredible with it.
This has been so insightful, exploring Kiyosaki's main ideas, and I feel like there's so much more to discover.
You know, one thing in Rich Dad, Poor Dad that really gets people talking is Kiyosaki's take on taxes. He goes way back in history, talking about how corporations and taxes have always been used by the wealthy.
That's not your typical money advice. Most books are all about budgeting and saving. Why does he focus on this?
He's saying if you want real financial freedom, you gotta understand these systems. Not to dodge taxes, but to know the rules of the game, use them strategically, just like the rich have always done.
He even compares it to, get this, Robin Hood. Kind of a weird comparison, right?
Right. Kiyosaki flips the whole Robin Hood thing on its head. He says taking from the rich to give to the poor actually backfired, making the middle class pay more taxes in the end.
So it's like a warning about good intentions going wrong.
Yeah, kind of. Kiyosaki's point is, instead of just spreading the wealth around, we should be giving people the knowledge and tools to create wealth on their own.
Taking control, understanding the system, not feeling like it's working against you.
Exactly. And that ties back to minding your own business, remember? It's not just about starting a company, it's about building those assets, having multiple ways to make money, whether you have a job or not.
So for someone who wants to actually do this, what are some steps to start building those assets?
Kiyosaki says try different things. Investing in real estate, stocks, maybe a side hustle or starting a business. The point is to create systems that bring in money even when you're not working.
He talks about money working 24/7, right?
Right.
Not just when you're working, but all the time.
That's the dream. A system that makes your money grow and work for you so you're not stuck just trading time for money.
I love that. And it goes with his idea that we all have a financial genius inside us. So why do so many people never find that genius?
Kiyosaki says it's how we're raised. We're told to get a good job, get a paycheck, save for retirement. But that traditional way often traps us in a box, stops us from seeing other ways to build wealth.
We got to break out of that box, see money as a tool to master, something to use, not just hide and worry about.
Exactly. And that means facing our fears, which Kiyosaki says is the biggest thing holding us back. He tells the story about buying a house in Phoenix when the market was terrible.
He didn't even use his own money for the down payment, right? Borrowed a little from a friend and flipped the house for a profit, basically making money from thin air.
It's the perfect example of how taking a smart risk, using knowledge and creativity, can pay off big time.
Seeing opportunity where others see danger, and then having the guts to go for it.
And not letting fear stop you. Kiyosaki says the best investors are often the ones who take smart risks, even when everyone else is freaking out.
He even says failure is part of learning, like riding a bike. You're going to fall before you can ride smoothly.
He wants us to see failure differently, as feedback, as part of getting to success.
Not about avoiding mistakes, but learning from them, adapting, and becoming tougher when things get rough.
Exactly. And he gives some real-world steps to get financially smarter and take action. One is stop doing what you're doing. Sounds intense.
Yeah, a little drastic. What does he mean by that?
He doesn't mean quit your job and run away. It's about pausing, looking at what's working in your life, what's not, especially with money. Are we stuck? Making choices out of fear or comfort instead of strategy?
A time to reflect, be honest with ourselves.
Exactly. He also says to seek out new ideas, find mentors who've already made it big financially, and be willing to put yourself out there, even if it means making offers people might say no to or taking risks that feel scary.
He even says make lots of offers, even if you think they'll get rejected. You never know, someone might be desperate to sell.
It's about being proactive, not giving up, not letting fear of no stop you. He tells a story about buying a condo at an auction for way less than his neighbor paid for the same one.
That's knowledge being power. He knew how foreclosures worked and got an amazing deal because of it.
Which brings us to another key point, taking action. Kiyosaki's big thing is action always beats inaction. It's easy to overthink, get stuck in the details, let fear keep us from doing anything, but he reminds us nothing happens until we take that first step.
Turn knowledge into action, take calculated risks, and learn from the good and the bad.
Exactly. And he gives some, let's say, unconventional advice on managing money. Be an Indian giver.
Now that sounds a little shady. What's he getting at with that?
It comes from a misunderstanding. When Europeans first came to America, Native Americans would offer them blankets when it was cold. The settlers thought it was a gift and got offended when the Native Americans asked for the blankets back.
Different cultures, different ideas about what was happening. It wasn't a gift like they thought, but a loan or a kindness with the expectation of something in return.
Right. Kiyosaki uses this story to talk about using money as a tool. Be comfortable with money coming and going, lending it, investing it, seeing it as something to make more wealth, not just hide away.
So being okay with giving and receiving, knowing that money's meant to be used, put to work, not just hoarded.
You got it. And he also says it's important to have heroes, people to look up to. He talks about how as a kid he loved baseball players like Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, studying them, wanting to be like them.
He says we forget how powerful that can be, having heroes as adults.
He wants us to find people who inspire us, whether they're successful in business, charity, art, anyone who has the qualities we admire.
Having role models, mentors, people who show us what's possible.
Exactly. He says we don't have to figure everything out ourselves. We can learn from those who've already done it and use their wisdom in our own lives.
This is all great, but it's a lot to process. How can someone keep from getting overwhelmed by all this advice?
Kiyosaki says it's a journey, not a race. Start small, pick one or two things that speak to you, and slowly build your knowledge and confidence over time.
He also talks about teaching and giving back, right? He says, teach and you shall receive. A reminder that real wealth is more than just money. It's about sharing what you know to help others.
It's about seeing the abundance in the world, knowing that the more you give, the more you get back.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is full of practical tips and ideas that make you think. I feel like we've just started to explore what it has to offer.
It's a book that keeps giving, you know? Every time you read it, you see something new you can use in your own life with money.
It's not just about knowing this stuff. It's about doing it, trying things out, making adjustments, and getting better as you learn.
That's the heart of it. Embrace the journey, take charge of your money future, and build your own success.
This deep dive has given me a whole new view of Kiyosaki's message. I'm ready to take a closer look at my own habits and start thinking smarter about those assets.
That's great to hear. It's all about those first steps, no matter how small, and building momentum. Remember, action always beats inaction.
This has been an amazing journey into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But we're not done yet. There's more to uncover, especially some of the more thought-provoking, even controversial parts of Kiyosaki's ideas. Stay with us.
As we wrap up our look at Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think it's worth pointing out how much Kiyosaki stresses taking action.
He's not letting us off the hook. He doesn't want us to just read about it, but actually do something with the info, right?
Right. He wants us to use those money lessons in our real lives, make decisions, take action. But he's not saying to be reckless either.
So no jumping into things without thinking. It's about being smart and calculated when you take a risk.
Exactly. He talks about mastering one formula, finding success with it, then moving on to learn something new, always growing, expanding your money skills.
Like, don't be scared to dive in, but have a plan and be ready to learn and adjust along the way.
And have the right people around you. He's really big on choosing mentors carefully, not taking advice from people who aren't where you want to be financially.
He's got that great line, don't listen to poor or frightened people. They can always tell you why something won't work.
It's so true. Be careful who you let influence you, especially with money. Be around people who push you to think bigger and bolder.
Kiyosaki also says to pay your advisors well. Build a team of experts to guide you.
He sees professional advice as an investment, not a cost. The right team can help you navigate the tricky parts of finance and maybe even make you more money.
Like having a pit crew for your money, helping you reach your goals.
He also says it's important to be like a Swiss Army knife with your money skills.
I love that. What does he mean?
He wants us to have lots of different financial skills, from accounting to investing, understanding markets, and even the law.
So not just being good at one thing, but having a well-rounded understanding of how it all works together.
Exactly. And remember, being an Indian giver, he even says that's important. Understanding how money flows, being comfortable with giving and receiving.
Seeing money as something you can use to create value, not something to be scared of or just hoard.
Yeah, he wants us to think like entrepreneurs even if we don't own a business.
Taking charge of our money future, looking for opportunities, thinking outside the box about how to build wealth.
In the end, I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a big wake-up call.
It makes us question what we believe about money, take control, and realize that anyone can learn to be good with money.
Kiyosaki truly believes we all have that financial genius inside us, just waiting to come out.
I love that. So what can our listeners do today to find that genius? What really stuck with you from Rich Dad, Poor Dad? What are you going to do differently with your money now? Tell us in the comments.
And if you want more deep dives into money wisdom, hit that subscribe button. Next time, we're tackling Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits by Philip Fisher.
Until then, happy investing.